Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to be a part of this critical juncture in your career, and today I'd like to cover two areas of effective management. Those are the 5 functions of management and 3 primary management styles. First, we're going to start with the 5 functions of management, and those are planning, organizing, staffing, leading, and controlling. Let's start with planning. This is the first step in achieving your goal or your objective. So this is really organizing and strategizing what you want your environment to look like. This could be an initiative or your overall department. You have to have a goal or a vision and continue to work towards that goal or vision. You're going to determine resource allocation here. You're going to forecast, what do I want this to look like at the end of the day, as well as you need to consider various scenarios. So this isn't just where you determine the best case scenario. You also want to look at potential impacts upstream and downstream. Next is organizing. This is really where you're breaking out your structure of your organization. So you're going to determine which assignments of tasks go where, which groups do what. You're going to determine your authority levels here, roles and responsibilities, as well as resource allocation and hierarchy structure. There are different types of organizational structures. So there's tall, which is basically linear. You've got flat, which is broader spans of control. You've got centralized and decentralized. And centralized is where you've got basically one area that's making most of the key decisions. And decentralized is where you've got a broader span of decision making across, a larger group of people potentially. Next, we got staffing. This is where you go through your capacity planning. You determine how many people you need to do the job at hand within each functional group. You determine your span of controls and your resource allocations here as well. And this is something you do on a regular basis. So about every quarter, you'll evaluate your staffing model. And if you need to open up requisitions for attrition or new roles maybe you didn't account for before. This is also where you determine your training. So you've got staff that's coming on board. What does your training look like in this area as well? You're going to determine your authority levels. So who has the authority to approve what? This is also where you do your hiring and your firing. So you set those roles and responsibilities up among your management staff, who has the authority and who's going to actually do the recruiting and hiring, interviewing, job offering. And then when it does come to termination, what does that look like? What does that process look like to get through to that? Then we've got leading, and this is where you're actually providing direction on a regular basis to your group so that they understand the expectations and what needs to happen in order to achieve the end goal. This includes execution and follow through. So you've got your initial setup of your department, but ongoing, you're always going to have new initiatives and new goals potentially that you're driving towards. So you need to always think through, how do I execute effectively? And then how do I follow through to make sure that I've got the end is what I expected to see. Motivation, I think this is the difference between a dynamic leader and a manager. Always remember the difference between leading and managing is managers do things right, leaders do the right thing. Then we've got controlling. So this is really where you're measuring the results that you expect to see through productivity reports, control reports. You need to have strong controls in place to make sure that the expectations are being met and that you're adhering. You've got a benchmark around your goal setting. You need to follow through on that on a regular basis, again, through productivity reports, control reports, and you're just monitoring to these controls and exceptions. You need to be forward thinking. So today it may not be an issue, but tomorrow you need to think about upstream and downstream impacts to make sure that you're always in a controlled environment and you're monitoring what you expect to have happen. This is where inspect what you expect comes into play. Now we're going to talk through the three management styles. So this is directing, delegating, and discussing. So directing is really a listening and learning. This involves clear communication or requires clear communication. You want to begin with an overall objective to the employee that you're communicating this to. And you always want to be respectful because, again, you are sort of telling them what to do exactly. And sometimes if you don't treat them like an adult, it can come across the wrong way. However, this is very good for less experienced employees or employees that are moving into a new role that may not have all the experience. And so really understanding and having the clear direction is a good opportunity to use this. It does, however, lead to a lack of empowerment if you try to use this style with a tenured employee or someone that does know the processes very well. And sometimes this is necessary when time is limited. So if you've got to get a directive out there very quickly for a quick execution, this is something that you would employ, one of the styles that you would definitely adopt at that time. Next is delegating. So this is where you're essentially assigning responsibility down to a direct report. You're giving them the authority and the responsibility to control this project or initiative on their own. You want to establish a check-in schedule up front to make sure that they're on track. You want to clearly set your expectations with the person that you're delegating down to if you haven't delegated in the past to them. And this definitely requires self-monitoring and self-coaching. So this is a good opportunity for high potential employees. It is very empowering and allows for exposure. If you've got a high PO employee that there's not a lot of opportunity for promotion, this gives them the opportunity to get the exposure with other areas of business that they may not have had before. And again, it empowers them and helps them hone in on their decision-making skills. It can be overwhelming. So, you need to be careful and set the expectations up front and have regular check-in schedules so that you are there to support them throughout this process. And again, this works very well for high potential employees. Discussing. So this is where you're discussing a new opportunity among a large group of people. So this is really brainstorming. You're giving everyone in the group an opportunity to share their feedback. This works well when SMEs are needed from various areas. So you've got people across with various backgrounds that you need their input. You may not always have all the answers. So this is a very good opportunity when you do have the chance to take a little more time and think through it, when you know you're going to need the buy-in from the floor and your management staff. It's good to pull them all in and again, have some brainstorming session. This is kind of the creative thinking. What does everybody think? This is our problem statement. How do we solution for it? And I think it's really important as a leader or a manager to know that you want to use all three of these styles to be an effective leader. Not just one. If you get stuck in one mode, again, it doesn't work for all of your employees. So it depends on what kind of environment you've got and the number of folks you've got that you're managing. But it definitely is more effective if you try to rotate these different approaches in throughout your career. I want to thank you for your time today. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to stop by and see me. And I wish you the best of luck in your journey. Thank you.